This is a scary story that I was told by my father. It happened to him when he was young. That day, my father, together with his other colleague, went to see a mutual friend of theirs. The three of them had drunken excessively. As it struck midnight, my father said his farewell to the other two men. One of them accompanied my dad to the gate and told him to be careful along the way. As my dad was walking on the familiar street, he realized it looked a bit strange and more unusual than it had normally been. He took a deep breath, then went into the pitch darkness. The gusts of wind gave my father a comfortable feeling as he made his way back home. A while later, my father went to a three-way junction. He looked confused at the roads ahead of him, then decided to take a shortcut. As he kept walking, he suddenly realized that in order to get home, he had to get through a forest. As he made his way deeper into the forest, he stepped onto the dead leaves on the ground, which created a sound that echoed throughout the whole place. My dad kept walking and walking, without caring much about what was going on around him. However, there was something strange here. Why was there too much fog in the forest? At that time, the wind was blowing lightly and the atmosphere was eerily scary. My dad finally sobered for a moment. He took a look around and found out that he was in the middle of a dense forest. There was no light at all. Suddenly, he heard a noise. My dad went to the direction of the noise as he slowly walked there to see what was going on. A group of men was seen gathering, singing and dancing cheerfully as they sat in a circle. Out of curiosity, my father walked to the group and howled, "Hey, I want to join you guys." My dad had a passion for singing and dancing as he never missed out a chance to participate in these kind of activities. That was the reason why I asked him to let him join in, with an excited look on his face. The drunkenness made him even more enthusiastic. He danced with a group of strangers all night and didn't even bother to go home. When it was nearly morning, my father had fully sobered. He instantly realized there was something not right taking place here. The scene before his eyes had changed. My dad had seen the group of men dancing around him suddenly becoming disfigured, which made them all look like monsters. As my dad rubbed his eyes constantly, he became even more terrified to see the things appearing in front of him. The shape of the people here became even more disfigured. Their faces looked lifeless. They walked very slowly, as if they were floating off the ground. They were also seen stammering, but the sound coming out of their mouths was haunting. All of a sudden, a guy had his head twisted around, which looked incredibly creepy. Their dance moves had also changed as they were way more creepy. My dad was completely bewildered. He tried to escape, but the ghosts didn't let him leave as they surrounded him in a circle. My dad screamed out in fear. He pushed his way through the crowd and ran away, leaving the ghosts behind, trying to grab him. As it was getting dark, my dad slowly realized that he had been lost. What was even more terrifying, the tall, mighty trees unexpectedly got twisted. They didn't even look realistic, which scared the hell out of him. The sudden thoughts popped into my dad's mind, making him feel dizzy. A total new world had appeared before his very eyes, one that was scary and spooky. Then my father caught himself standing in the middle of a maze of roads. He panicked. Not knowing which road to take, he thought to himself that he was being tricked by the ghosts in this forest. Sweat poured down his face as he tried to step forward, but his steps unknowingly became heavy as he walked sluggishly, as if he had been exhausted. The atmosphere in the forest also became scorching hot. The high temperature wore him out as his face turned pale and dripped with sweat. A few moments later, he felt numb throughout his whole body. All of a sudden, my father felt giddily, as if he had no strength left in his body. He slowly closed his eyes and confusedly walked forward. The tree leaves fluttering in the breeze, the things appearing before his eyes became dark and blurry in the night fog. My dad was scared. He tried to regain his consciousness while finding a way to get out of the spooky forest. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't even get up on his own. Things started getting more and more blurry. My dad was no longer aware of anything around him as he slowly fainted. The next morning, my dad was awoken by the sunlight shining down the forest. He slowly opened his eyes and saw two men staring at him. With a worried expression on their faces, the men asked if my dad was okay and asked how he ended up in this forest. A while later, my father had fully regained his consciousness. There were scratches all over his body. He couldn't even lay on his side as he faced his face onto the ground due to fatigue. As the smell of alcohol emanated from my father, the two men could guess that he had got lost on the way home due to drunkenness. They lifted him up and offered to take him home. As they made their way out of the place, my dad turned around and gazed at the forest. He recalled what had happened to him while the questions on his mind still remained unanswered. Later, my father found out that there was this one particularly scary flower that was called by the name ghostly grass. In this forest, the flower could cause hallucinations to those who got exposed to it. At night, it emitted a smell causing the one who breathed it in to hallucinate. The woodcutters also saw things being deformed as they went to the forest at night. After the incident, neither did my dad dare to get wasted nor go to the forest late at night. It still haunted him to this day, as he still forbids me to go to the forest.